Welcome back to Introduction to iOS App Development at SSFS. In our last unit, we took a look at a project called Word Collage, and through that we investigated the basic interface of Xcode and how to run and stop an app, and how to make modifications and add things such as labels and buttons. In this project, we're going to take a much deeper look at Swift. And Swift is Apple's programming language used to develop iOS apps. And not only are we going to look at Swift, but we're also going to look at object-oriented principles and how to integrate multiple classes into a single application. So we're going to start by either downloading the Lesson 1 project, which we'll use as our base. And this project is called SpaceAdventure, and you can find it from the Teaching App Development with Swift website, or you can download it from the class website. I've gone ahead and downloaded it and unzipped it, and I have the SpaceAdventure project open in Xcode. Right now there's nothing there, so I'm going to expand my SpaceAdventure project, and I see that I have a SpaceAdventure folder, and within that are two files. There's a main.swift and a helper functions.swift, and we'll look at both of those in detail. Let's go ahead and look at main.swift first, and most Swift applications often have a main starting file in the same way that in Python we had a main function that we usually started our programs with. And you can see right now there's a comment, a multi-line comment, and a single print statement that says hello world. And when I import Foundation, that imports all the tools needed to create a basic iOS app, and that's usually going to be the first line of your program. So let's go ahead and run this. For this project, we won't be opening the iOS application simulator. We're only going to work with the console, and the console is this area down here. And if I want to interact with the console, I use Shift Command C, and you can see the cursor is now blinking down on the console. But again, all this did was print hello world and then exit. So not much is going on here. So what I'm going to do is let's start to add some code to our program, and we're going to build it up over time. So I'm going to put in a couple of variables, and the way I do that in Swift is I type the keyword var or var, and I'm going to create a variable called number of planets, and then I'm going to give it a type, and the type for the number of planets is an int or an integer, and I'm going to say it equals 8. So I'm assigning the value of 8 to the variable number of planets, and it is an integer. I'm also going to create a variable called diameter of Earth, and this is going to be a decimal, so it's going to be of type float, and it equals 24859.82. And just so I know what that represents, I'm going to put a comment, and a comment is 2 forward slashes, and I'm going to say that's in miles from pole to pole, just so it's clear where this diameter is taken from. And again, a kind of a single line comment is 2 slashes, and notice it changes to green. Okay, so let's go ahead and I'm going to remove the hello world, and I'm going to put in a couple of my own print statements. So I'm going to say print welcome to our solar system. And you can see that the print function works the exact same way as the Python one does. Print, then parentheses, then whatever you want in quotes. If I want to include my variables in the print statement, I do that in a slightly different way. So I can say there are, and I actually, to print a variable, I put the backslash this time, and then parentheses, and then the name of my variable, so number of planets. Planets to explore. In order to include a variable, I just use the backslash and then the parentheses and the variable in parentheses. And let's do one more print statement. Print, you are currently on Earth, which has a circumference of, and then I'm going to put my variable in here, diameter of Earth, miles. And there we go. I've added a couple print statements. I have variables in the print statements. Let's go ahead and see what that looks like when we run it. So Command R. We're going to look down here at the console. And it says there are 8 planets. You are currently on Earth, which has a circumference of, and the circumference. Now you notice that up here, we actually typed our variables. We said that the number of planets is going to be an integer. In many languages, you have to do this. You have to put the type in. Remember, in Python, you didn't. And actually, in Swift, you don't have to either. Swift is actually smart enough that you don't necessarily have to put in the variable type. So I'm going to remove int and float. And let's go ahead and run this again to see that we should get the exact same output. And we do. There's no errors. So again, Swift usually will know what type we're trying to deal with. If you look at these variables, the number of planets most likely is not going to change. We certainly hope that the diameter of the Earth is not going to change. So instead of saying var for variable, I'm actually going to change this to let. The let keyword forces the number of planets and diameter of Earth to become a constant. So if your variable is not going to change, it's usually a good idea to use the keyword let instead of var. If you're going to have a variable that changes, go ahead and use var or var. But most of the times it's good to actually start with let. And again, let's go ahead and run that one more time to see that we should get the same output, and we do, so everything's running well. So, in this video we learned to create some simple variables and some print statements. In the next lesson we'll start to add more to our Space Adventure program.